Okay, my name is Lewis B. Harned. I'll even spell it Harned for you, and it's Lew, not Lou. So I was born and raised in Madison, Wisconsin, 1924. I was reached the 100-year mark last August 17th, which is my date of my birthday. Went grade school, high school, had 1 year at UW-Madison prior to World War II, and was drafted, and that's where my problems came in, because I was not accepted because of my nearsightedness, and broke my heart. I mean, at that time, all my buddies that we'd grown up together at high school and so forth, all enlisted and were gone and going. I couldn't go. But we found out about a outfit called the American Field Service that was originated in World War I. As a matter of fact, Hemingway was the American Field Service. We were ambulance drivers, and we were attached to the British 8th Army. So I spent some time in North Africa, Sicily, and ended up, the majority of my time was in Italy. We were stopped. I sailed from Augusta, Sicily, where I spent Christmas, 1943. In 1944, we sailed to Italy, landing in Toronto, and then traveled from Italy with the British 8th Army up through Naples, stopped by the Germans at the Gustav line, which included casino. And we were there from, there's 4 major battles. I was there for 3 of them, and we finally broke loose from the Gustav line. 1944, that would be in February, end of February. But it wasn't much fun. That whole area is surrounded by mountains, which I had no idea that southern Italy had so many mountains. And the Germans were on the top of the mountains and watching every move we made. When we would cross a river, they'd be on the other side, and then we'd have to chase them away. And they'd be up in the mountains, and then we'd have to chase them off the mountains and then come down. But it was quite an experience. It really was. I forgot to say that prior to all that time, something that you're talking to a Boy Scout that took care of a Civil War veteran that was there in Madison, Wisconsin in 1937 at one of the last of the Grand Old Army of the Republic conventions. And they were headquartered at the Lorraine Hotel in Madison. You had to be a first-class Boy Scout, which I was, and we were assigned to a Civil War veteran. You're talking to an old man that had time taking care of a Confederate Civil War veteran who was drafted at the age of 10 as a drummer boy. And he stayed in the Confederate Army up until the time, fortunately, survived. And he was there in Madison at the convention. And the stories he told, he was in his late 90s, were pretty exciting, but it was quite an honor. After World War II, I came back my tour, got my MD. I'm a retired orthopedic surgeon. Uh, they didn't care about whether I could see or not see, really. They needed doctors, and that's why I was taken by the American Air Force, because they had so many Army doctors they didn't need anymore. And I was stationed at Hill Air Force Base in Ogden, Utah for 2 years during the Korean War. Didn't have to leave the country, fortunately. I missed Vietnam, probably saved my life, and practiced for 24 years in Waterloo, Iowa. I was very active with the athletic department at the University of Northern Iowa, and traveled with the team, took care of primarily the wrestling team and the football team as the physician. And then we retired and came back to Madison, or left Waterloo and came back to Madison to retire in 1984. And my brother at that time was Deputy AG for Air. He was a fighter pilot during the Korean War. Called himself the greatest fighter pilot, in the world, which was probably true. And they needed an orthopedic surgeon in the Army National Guard, and I was old at that time, and they were able to get me in, and I became commander of the 13th Evac Hospital, and we were activated in August of 1993, and we were part of the regular Army at that time. And I was sent over to Saudi Arabia right after Christmas, 1993. And we were there during the 100-hour war. Fortunately, we just took care of the wounded. We didn't lose any of our troops. And it was, I had been, in World War II, I had been in the desert before, so this was really no big shock to me, but to the kids that were there had no idea what going to war meant and so forth. And fortunately, as I said, I brought them all home alive, and that was one of my goals and so forth. For some interesting thoughts, I was the oldest commander in the field during Desert Storm. I was not the oldest soldier Desert Storm. There was an ophthalmologist that was 67, I was 65. Anyway, it was a good time, and came back home, and I retired. Well, I first of all was when we came back to Madison. They wanted to start a sports medicine clinic at one of the big medical clinics in Madison, and they picked me or asked me if I would start that clinic, which I did. There was a young MD that was taking a course in sports medicine at the Mayo Clinic, and I remained as the runner of the sports medicine clinic at the Dean Clinic until he finished his course. And then I retired in February of 1992. Oh, and I retired as a 1-star general. How about that? Well, one of the things we had to learn to do is how to take care of our ambulance. We were very fortunate that we were driving American Dodge ambulances, 4-wheel drive. The British had I call them boxcar ambulances, and that's what they looked like, but they had they were not 4-wheel drive, and they were square. They had high, and heavy wind would blow them over and so forth. That's why our unit was always placed with the attacking division, and so we were with them all through the battles, as I said, of Cassino till they finally broke through what the Germans had and called their defensive line the Gustum Line. And I was with them after we crossed several rivers, climbed several mountains, and ended up in Bologna, Italy. And shortly after that, I came home. Yeah. Well, okay. Let's say that we're outside of the town of Cassino, which was just leveled by the fighting that was done around that town, and there was a beautiful abbey that was on a mountaintop, and we were pulled back because the people got all upset because they felt the Germans were using it as an observation post, which they weren't, but they were around the abbey on the outside, and of course, as I say, they were on the mountaintops and all around. They could see every place we were, and zeroed in all the road crossings and highways and so forth. But anyway, I will tell you that after they decided that they would blow up the Abbey, they did. They pulled us back to a mountaintop that was further back behind, away from the site where they were dropping the bombs, and they came in and just blew it up. And I will tell you that after the war, they saved the architectural design of the Abbey, and it was rebuilt with money from the Allied countries, and particularly the United States. And my wife and I were in Rome several years ago, and we had an English driver who drove us back to Cassino. Well, they'd rebuilt Cassino. I didn't recognize anything where I had been. The Abbey had been rebuilt. It's now a tremendous visitors' shrine, you might say, for people that come into Cassino. So it looks just like it did prior to the bombing. And I'm approaching my 100th birthday, and my daughter Linda got the idea that we should do 100 things that I had never done before approaching my 100th birthday. And that's what we did. And as we were talking before the interview, I did things like zip lining, swimming in the Mississippi, skiing, as a handicapped veteran, because I severely handicapped with arthritis in my right hip and both knees. And when you get to be my age, you don't operate on those things. So I get along pretty good. My biggest problem is balance. Some of the other things we did was salmon fishing and walleye fishing. I got to fly in a B-24 bomber, which was pretty exciting. And it was fun doing these things that I had never never done before. Well, they give you quite a rundown on what it's going to be like and so forth and so on, which was okay. But I went with two young kids. One was 7 years or 8 years old. The other one was about 10. And gee, they'd never been skydiving before. And they were like experts. I mean, how they could do all that stuff. And so the old man gets in there, and I'm not too happy. And we're in an outfit that has handles on the back, and our instructor, or my instructor, was right with me the whole time we were inside. And and you're doing this, uh, and I'm pretty old to do some of that. You're only there for what was it, 2 minutes, and then we got to do it twice. The second time, I felt more at ease, a little more, and was absolutely, I had to do it. She wasn't hanging on at all. So I was going up and down and doing crazy things like that. But the one thing that they didn't tell me what to do, when we left the tower where we're doing our exercises and so forth, the air, when they opened up the door, the compressed air inside the tower just rush, push you right through the door. And if you hadn't hung on to the side, I probably would be still blown down the road someplace. But outside of that, it was exciting. It's something that I had never done before, which I'll never do again. Okay, so those. What's one of the other things that I did was curling, and that was you got to remember that what I was trying to do, and at the same time that I was talking, I was as a handicapped veteran. Okay, I was showing and talking to all of the handicapped veterans that saw my show, and was able to tell them about all the things that can be done for handicapped veterans, and things that they probably never knew or hadn't thought that they could do these things. And whenever I go out talking, like I'm talking with you right now, I push that there are things out there for veteran soldiers retired that they don't realize that are there, and you can do these things. And it's amazing how they have things set up. One of the other interesting things was sailing off of Sheboygan, Wisconsin, and everything was done with electronics. I mean, it was just amazing. They have a special chair that they from the dock into the boat that they can lift you in and put you down, and of course they strap you in, and here you are, and you have buttons that you can push, and that will turn to the right or turn to the left, and then another one that will control the sail that you can do it. So you're doing everything sailing the boat, and that was pretty exciting. I enjoyed that. And then, as I said, I had, of course, been walleye fishing quite a bit, so I knew all about that. But I'd never been salmon fishing before. And we had a tremendous captain, a beautiful boat, and I caught 9 or beautiful salmon, king salmon, about that size. And they do this every year and get a group of World War II veterans, if they can, to fill and come them up to Sheboygan, and we had a great time. I will say one thing. There were Linda, myself, and the captain, and 2 other veterans that were on the boat. Everybody got seasick except me. Yeah, I did the honor flight. I was on the first honor flight that they flew from Madison, but not the very first flight. I was the third flight that flew up. That was pretty exciting. The scout troops in Madison had a lot to do with helping us get prepared for the. We had to be at the airport at 4 a.m. in the morning, and we were all assigned a Boy Scout. Then we boarded the plane and we were flown to Washington D.C. And when we landed, we were surrounded by the little carts the baggage carts, and the fire engines, and they were squirting water on our plane as we were going back. And we boarded the jetway, and it was unbelievable because we had no idea what we were going to see or anything. The runway, we were at the very last jet runway, and it completely packed with people that were welcoming us, clapping. We had music, band music, and as we were walking, I'll tell you one story. There were a bunch of high school kids there, and this one gal came in with a paperboard and so forth, waiting to take notes, I guess, and she said, Mr. Veteran, she said, could I interview you? And I said, sure. And I said, is this for a school project? And she said, yes. Yeah. And so she did. But that was the way it was. When we were interviewed, Senator Dole, who had so much to do with building the museum, was there, and he was, a prisoner of war for so many years, and he was pretty old and pretty feeble, and the thing that was of interest was that we were told that you can go up to Senator Dole, that you can shake his hand, don't touch him. Didn't want us to have anything to do with touching him, but it was pretty impressive. And if you get a chance, you should go to that memorial. It's just unbelievable. So that was pretty exciting. And as I said, I've been twice to the museum in New Orleans, and if you do go to New Orleans to visit the World War II museum, plan to stay and visit for 3 days because you won't see it in one day. That's big. So I'm going to get to go back to the museum in June. I'm going to go on a bus trip in May and go through the memorial again. But it's quite an honor to be able to do that. That there's no more wars, that's for sure. Well, right now, by the year of 2030, there'll probably be very, very few, if maybe no more World War II veterans. And I think the biggest thing that we as veterans, our project should be that we keep alive what we had done. They're not teaching in high school or even in college so much of World War II anymore, which is kind of too bad, but this is what we should be doing to keep the story and the things that we had done and why we did them, and why we hope that we'll never have to do it again. Yeah.